life. I know one time I was tasked with remote viewing a political leader in another country. Let's put it that way. And there was something that was bothering me through the whole session, something sort of nagging at the background. I was there to find out that person's plans and intentions politically for the next governmental meeting that they had. And we got that information, and yet there was that something that nagged at me. Well, I was driving home that evening, and it was a beautiful autumn day. It was on a Friday, and I was recounting, what am I going to do this weekend? Well, I've got to mow the lawn, I have to wash the car, I have to do this other stuff, I have to kill my wife, and I have to, clean out the basement, and wait a minute, what was that? And there it was, I have to kill my wife. Now, I would not have done that. However, that was what was nagging at me during that session, and once I had finished the session, I had not completely detoxed from it. Now, that weekend, that political leader's wife died under very mysterious circumstances, and nobody ever really looked into it. And it's my personal knowledge that he killed her. And would I have done the same? No. But it was there, and it was in my mind. And you can't carry stuff like that around with you. One of the things that we learned is when it comes to remote viewing for the military, don't take it home to your family. And this was a constant problem in the military unit that we had to always watch out for. Did that answer that question?
It did, Lyn. Thank you very much. People tend to think that remote viewing is a one-way communication, but there is that feedback, as you mentioned there. So it is dangerous business if you do remote viewing untrained. Third time's a charm. I'll pass it over to Disaster Cat.
Hi, Lyn. This first question is from Uranus Rising. She asks, many of your clients are corporate clients, and corporations have one objective to make a profit, which may be in conflict with overall social, ecological, and economic or ethical concerns. Does the objective ever create ethical conflicts for remote viewers? And do you have thoughts and or strategies for dealing with such ethical consideration? And I'm sure she meant controlled remote viewers when she asked the question.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And one of the things that's extremely important in learning controlled remote viewing is having ethics. Ethical considerations are very big. You don't hand a gun to a psychopath or to a child, and the ethical considerations are very big. Now, when it comes to the corporate clients, basically what they do is they pay us for information that will help them make decisions. Is that going to change things in the business world? Absolutely it will. Will that have ramifications maybe on a smaller company? Things like that? Yes, it will. At some point, you have to just decide whether you're going to do something like that for a corporate client or for the military even. I'm very proud to say that my work in the military saved lives, saved our soldiers' lives. Did that mean that it took the lives of other soldiers, enemy soldiers and all? I don't know. And I really, it bothers me that I don't know, and it bothers me that it may have. But, everything you do in life is going to have both positive and negative ramifications. As far as corporate clients, I have probably been responsible for hurting smaller businesses or whatever, and yet the thing that I see personally is that a company asks me for information which will lead to giving them a better decision-making process. I provide that information, and then I'm out of it. Hopefully, I haven't done any damage. I'm afraid that in some cases I may have. I don't know. I always tell people, especially corporate clients and people who want the remote viewing services personally, that I don't do industrial espionage, and I don't do things that will impinge on someone else's civil rights, their personal rights and all that. But then at some point you have to just make an assessment of the customer that you're talking to, and you have to say, do I trust this person or not? Have I been mistaken at times? I keep thinking that probably I have, and that bothers me. But, you know, here again, have my ethics been pure? They've been as pure as I can make them. Yeah, I try to help one person, and I hope it doesn't hurt someone else. Here again, you know, ethics plays a very big part. The government handed me a gun in this remote viewing. Am I using it correctly to protect people, or am I hurting someone? I don't know. And many times that doubt of I don't know gets to me. However, if I get even the smallest inkling that someone is using this to hurt someone else, that's the end of the process. I don't need their money. I don't need their money that badly. I can always go to a roulette wheel and get the money. So I hope I'm doing some good. So the answer is maybe I don't know. Is that a decent answer?
I'm sure it is. I think it's supposed to go over down to Plain.
Yes, Lyn. I have a question regarding something that you emphasize in classes and in your book, which is the whole idea of ambiance. Can you tell me how one would develop that sense of ambiance and how that directly relates to working in controlled remote viewing?
Yeah, for those not familiar with this, I have a book out called The Seventh Sense. What we have found out is that people read their immediate environment on a subconscious level, and that this is not psychic. It's one poker player reading the tells of another poker player. It's walking into a room and feeling all of a sudden, ooh, I better watch my P's and Q's here, or something like that, or walking into a room and feeling free and easy. It's the ambiance of your immediate surroundings. And I have seen a lot of psychics doing work at psychic fairs and all, and I've stood and watched. I've only been to a psychic 3 times in my life, but I've stood and watched as these others work. And what I see most of the time is that the person is not reading your hand, the lines in your hand, or your future or something. They're reading you. They're looking for tells. They're saying things, seeing how you react, and so on. And that a lot of the things that pass for psychic is actually just ambiance. They're reading you. They're reading the room around you, and so forth. Anyway, we train ambiance as being separate from psychic ability. And the reason we train ambiance is because if you can't describe the ambiance of the room that you're sitting in right now, how can I send your mind halfway around the world or off to a different world and have you accurately describe it there? And so because people do influence their perceptions with the ambiance of the room around them, it becomes very important to controlled remote viewing to let them pick up on the ambiance, describe it, and realize then that everything that they're perceiving is going to be colored by this ambiance of the room or the location where they're mentally viewing. And so we have an exercise that has 20 steps to it, and these 20 steps normally take a person probably 18 to 20 years to fully master. It's very much a martial art type thing. What we do with step one is we have you walk from one room to another, or get into your car, out of your car, walk through the garden gate, whatever. Anytime you pass through a portal, you try to sense the amount of change in ambiance. You don't name the change. You just try to sense the amount of change. And what this does is it gets you more sensitive to changes in ambiance. We don't care what the change is. We just want you sensitive. And then the higher steps lead you to the point where at some point you can sit in a restaurant with your eyes closed. You can tell when somebody walks into the room with a red shirt on or a purple shirt or something like that. And you can tell whether they're entering or leaving. You can tell whether they're male or female. If they're leaving, you can tell what they ate, and so on. And none of it is psychic. You know how when somebody walks into a room happy, it brightens the whole room. When someone walks into a room angry, there's that feeling that comes over the room. If we can make you sensitive, extremely sensitive to that, then we can make you sensitive to when somebody walks in a red shirt or a blue shirt or something like that. And this sense of ambiance can actually become almost as accurate as your vision, as your normal eyesight. And it's not psychic. It's just picking up on the room around you. Then beyond that, we can say, okay, now move to this place, this targeted place. What's the ambiance there? And you can pick up on the ambiance, and then you can realize that all of your perceptions are going to be colored by that ambiance of that location. And so it helps us get more accurate information about that location. The ambiance exercise is one that absolutely changes your life. It also takes your perception beyond your vocabulary, and you start being able to feel and perceive things that you can't even describe. And when that happens, you can get totally accurate information about not only the distant location, but also the room around you. One time, one of my students and I were in Las Vegas, and we were walking along, and we were at the steps above the floor for the slot machines. And so we stopped. He was talking about the ambiance exercises, and so we stopped at the top of the steps, and I said, "Watch this." And we stood there for a minute, and all of a sudden one of the waitresses stopped and looked up at us, and we didn't do anything, and then another waitress stopped, and within about 3 or 4 minutes, people who were at the slot machines were turned around. They had moved away from the slot machines and actually standing there out in the aisle looking at us to see what was going on and what everybody was